Hello there, good evening indeed, and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. We do hope you had yourselves a great weekend and definitely a great start to your week. Now, this is what is coming up on Edition tonight. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente is currently in Doha, Qatar, where he is attending the 5th United Nations Conference on Least Developed Countries on behalf of President Paul Kagame. Secondary school teachers are being trained on the history of the genocide against the Tutsi. It is a pleasure having your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Sam Kalisa. As we started off tonight, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente is currently in Doha, Qatar, where he is attending the 5th United Nations Conference on Least Developed Countries on behalf of President Paul Kagame. Addressing delegates, the Prime Minister pointed out that there are tangible examples of countries that have been able to develop despite a difficult past, which is why all developing countries should aspire to do the same. We have more.
The Rwandan Prime Minister pointed out to those gathered that there are many factors that hold some developing countries from achieving their development agendas that include unstable governance, conflict, health threats, climate change, failure in international trade, and unbalanced world economy. On the other hand, the Rwandan Prime Minister noted that it is high time that leaders turn the potential that exists on the global level in respective countries and in populations into prosperity for all.
There are also cases of countries that graduated, and the most recent past, as well as projections for the next couple of years, tell us that there is more prospect of graduation nowadays. Again, we can learn lessons from those countries that graduated or are on the way or their way to graduate. These lessons, if replicated at the scale, should turn into graduation of more countries. We don't want to and cannot afford to be in the LDC's category forever. No country, no responsible government, no population can and should accept to keep suffering from poverty.
Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente also highlighted the steps Rwanda is taking towards being a developed country.
We recorded the growth of about 80%, more than tripling income per capita. We managed to almost halve poverty from 78%, which was the case in 1995, to 38% in 2017. The income per capita, despite being still low, has more than tripled over those years. The progress of the last decades has given our people hope for the better future, where we reach the living standards of the middle-income countries soon and better toward the end of this decade.
Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente participated in discussions on how to increase the efforts to develop knowledge, technology and innovation to help achieve sustainable development in developing countries. Based on what Rwanda has done, he pointed out that no knowledge can be attained in developing countries without proper investments.
The journey, of course, is still long, but some of these investments in science, technology and innovation have started to pay off in terms of improved services to the population. The key lesson we have learned is that advancing science, technology and innovation in LDCs requires a multifaceted approach that gives a priority to investment, fosters collaboration, promotes open innovation, develops human capital, new technologies, and promotes policy coherence. We need to create regional centers of excellence to foster research and development in LDCs, knowledge creation, capacity building, and address key challenges toward creating a meaningful life for our citizens.
On what Rwanda has achieved in terms of promoting knowledge and technology, Professor Bididi Ishuheri Nyamulinda, university lecturer, points out that it has produced tangible results, reiterating on areas that need more emphasis.
One has to look at this from the perspective of national strategy for transformation, whereby the government saw it fit to select three broader pillars, namely the economic transformation, the social transformation, and the transformational governance. We need to improve our cultural sector so that we can be able to satisfy our national food needs. So that being the case, you'll find that Rwanda, as well as other developed countries, tend to invest less in research.
The Prime Minister also pointed out the issue of lack of researchers, where in 2019, the world had only 8 million of them, most of whom were from China, accounting for 45% of all researchers, while Europe had 25%.
Moving ahead, secondary school teachers are being trained on the history of the genocide against the Tutsi and the Jewish Holocaust. This is so that they will be able to accurately teach on facts of the two tragedies. We'd have the report with Serge Node.
The teachers being trained have come from all the provinces of the country, representing their peers, and acknowledge the importance of the training, saying they did not fully understand what happened during the tragedies, like the Jewish Holocaust of the Second World War, and that there were instances of ignorance even towards the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi here in Rwanda. By coming here, I will be able to help close the knowledge gap that exists for some people who are unable to comfortably speak on that history, especially concerning the genocide. After completing my training, I will be able to help them. Indeed, it can be surprising just how little some people know about what really happened during such major past events, even educators, which is why the training was organized.
Very excited about the results from this workshop. 25 teachers from across Rwanda went through a very competitive application process. Each of them has committed to a project, a capstone project, bringing what they've learned here about the Holocaust, about contemporary genocide, about the history here in Rwanda and peace building. They will do a capstone project in their schools and communities. And a year from now, we will come back, hear what their projects are, and then we will know and celebrate all of their hard work.
Among those to speak to the trainees on Monday was Israel's ambassador in Rwanda.
One thing is to teach more about the Holocaust, because I believe that if you cannot teach about genocide, you should at least teach about Holocaust, and you can learn from the story of the Holocaust. It's not easy to teach the genocide by teachers in Rwanda. For many reasons, it's not easy. So teaching the Holocaust could be a solution to learn about the anti-Semitism, to learn about the period before genocide, before Holocaust. What did they do to the Jews? And then the Holocaust itself. There are periods that are similar to the periods here between 59 and 94, 94, the genocide itself, and then later on. So teaching the Holocaust should have more hours in the curricula, should have more time for the teachers, and they raised it, and I think it's a good idea to have more hours in teaching Holocaust.
The training of the 15 teachers is to last for 4 days.
Right, still on this particular story, Educators Institute for Human Rights, EIHR, in partnership with Aegis Trust, of course, has started a teacher leadership training program to advance Holocaust and genocide and other mass atrocities education for secondary school students here in Rwanda. So the teaching of such atrocities is considered useful for now and in the future, particularly towards helping in the fight against denial and other future atrocities. In this particular regard, joining me in RBS studios tonight is Kate English, who is the Executive Director of Educators Institute for Human Rights. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, I'll start off with this particular, I can say, very great initiative, and start by asking you, what is the main intended target? When you thought about, this particular teacher training program, particularly on the Holocaust and other atrocities?
Well, the main focus here was to create a program that would generate leadership. We've been here since 2011 and done a whole series of workshops. Each time the teachers asked for more time, more content on the Holocaust. And what we decided was that we would try and replicate the program that we actually trained on, which was called the Museum Teacher Fellowship at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. And so the projects that I mentioned, we hope that turns into more than a single project, that it becomes an opportunity for leadership, for training other teachers across Rwanda, for creating materials, and to really become part of a global network of teachers doing this work together.
Absolutely. And while designing this particular program and the whole curriculum of it, and particular lessons that are going to be given to teachers, what issue or problem or the gap that you really wanted to close in this particular regard? What was the void available for you to think of this particular program?
Well, the way that our organization functions, we really want to do a lot of listening before we make any recommendations. So what we were asked by our colleagues at Aegis Trust, who have an absolutely outstanding peace education program, was for that specific expertise in Holocaust education. And so we've found that partnership just to be so fruitful and productive. And after 12 years, we're looking forward to at least 12 more to continue making a difference together.
Absolutely. And still on that one, when you talk about the Holocaust and now in Rwandan story, the genocide against the Tutsi that occurred here in Rwanda in 1994, we are talking about teachers, some of which, were actually born after 1994, after the genocide against the Tutsis. Some of them did not really experience this. They just read about the history. And even those they're teaching, I mean, the students, actually a big, all of them, let me say, all of them did not experience it, but they get to learn it. And where does it relate, or to someone who was born post such atrocities, what does it mean, or why should they really give much time in learning about these particular histories and atrocities?
The question of relevance is one that we often think about, and in any time we're designing curriculum or creating a program, we think about what's the rationale for that particular program and how is it relevant. And so the position I would take here is that the young people are the history makers in the society. They are creating the narrative of the next generation. And so understanding history and getting plenty of time to really understand it deeply as part of their national narrative will help them to move forward in a way that can continue to build peace and sustain a stable society.
One of the issues when it comes to such atrocities, I mean, both the genocide against the Tutsi that happened in Rwanda and the Jewish Holocaust, is denial.
Yes.
A lot of people out there denied the reality of the history that happened in Rwanda or in the Jewish Holocaust. And what is the role of educating or training teachers on these particular matters, and how can it contribute to fighting denials, which might in some other cases lead to future atrocities?
The question of denial is a consistent problem throughout any post-atrocity, whether it's a genocide or a crime against humanity or some other form of violence. It's a consistent question, and so when faced with those questions, really staying focused on factual information with where you can point to documentation, to primary sources, and really make it clear that to deny it is to deny truth.
Right.
And so being truth-telling, however hard it may be, is imperative to building a strong and peaceful society. And Rwanda really has been an exemplar in that field. I know that at home, we're confronting the consequences of a culture that is not willing to look at its own hard history. Our schools in the United States are currently fighting battles about teaching the facts of enslavement of Africans on our continent. But here in Rwanda, the genocide is part of the curriculum already, and with a willingness to really look at the difficult topic and be honest about it, because otherwise, how do you move forward in a healthy way?
So, in other words, it contributes to moving forward in a healthy way.
Absolutely, in a healthy way, yes.
Right, and to educators or any other educator in particular that is watching us right now, what's your call on them when it comes to teaching such history that is sometimes considered bitter history, but actually the reality of what happened? What's your call on them, and how should they really behave when it comes to teaching such atrocities?
Oh, that's an excellent question. There are guidelines that are very helpful in understanding a pragmatic and a thoughtful approach. Taking into consideration things like age appropriateness and what is your context? What grade level are you teaching? What subject matter? And I would say that take some time to make sure that you feel like you are comfortable in the content. I know for me, the first time, I felt such a responsibility to do it well. That I had to read just a whole lot of the history of literature to make sure that I was doing it justice, that I was teaching it properly. And by finding the guidelines, it was very helpful to think about things like, was the material I was choosing too graphic? Was I putting it into context? Was I showing what had happened before the atrocity took place? How there was some kind of a society that day to day was very much like our day-to-day society right now, and that after those events, so it's not just about the atrocity that takes place, it's the whole of what leads up to it, what happens in the midst of it, and how we come out of it and hopefully rebuild and create a better society.
Absolutely. And as you answered that, I was really wondering, with this very excellent initiative, how many teachers have you trained, and how many more are you willing or planning to train in order to make sure that your particular goal is realized?
Well, we'd like to train as many teachers who would like to come and be trained. So that number is really not a fixed target. It's really the amount of enthusiasm. But around the world, we keep trying to guess at how many teachers we've worked with. But we've worked on in places like Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Cambodia, Argentina, in the United States quite extensively. And we're continuing to build out the teacher groups that become part of our network, including partnering recently with teachers who are in the midst of a crisis in Ukraine.
All right.
Yeah.
And now finally, maybe if you do have what's your departing word as we, move forward with this particular, I can again say, very excellent program.
Well, we believe firmly that teachers can partner together to end hate. And that is the reason why we do the work that we do.
Right. Kate English, Executive Director of Educators Institute for Human Rights. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll move ahead to other matters. On Monday, the Rwanda Forensic Laboratory, in collaboration with the Africa Society for Forensic Medicine, organized a media breakfast to announce the preparations of the upcoming 10th annual conference that will take place in Kigali. We do have more.
To run from 7th to 10th March 2023 has tabled several issues for discussion, including human tissue banking, management of the dead, identification of the deceased migrants, disaster response and management, prevention of gender-based violence, crime scene management, and harmonized evidence-based forensic science practice. Rwanda was chosen to host country of this year's conference, considering the fact that the country has advanced its forensic science field, hence a compelling area for other African countries to learn from. The Director General of the Rwandan Forensic Laboratory reiterates that the conference will contribute to increase the number of people who come to Rwanda for forensic science services.
We will learn something about them, and they will learn more about us. In particular, I would like to talk about the technology used in forensic science. They will show us what they have achieved, so that we can as well learn from them. The conference convenes African forensic laboratories, but even other countries will be here to learn and grow their forensic science services. So the goal is to showcase what we have achieved, the challenges we faced, and how we can work together to improve security in Africa and the world in general.
The conference will bring together more than 400 people from 40 countries around the world, including researchers, teachers, and those who use scientific evidence, such as those in criminal justice, judges, the police, and forensic laboratories.
We already are presenting to the world and Africa through the platform of Rwanda evidence-based modality. So it's, first of all, it's a direct challenge to Rwanda to optimize, because there's always room for improvement. Any moment we get to a point and we say, oh, we've made all the progress, we don't want to make more progress. That's a problem. And so despite all the progress that have been made in the Rwandan Forensic Laboratory, there's always one layer again to go. And that's the kind of engagement we're going to be having with authorities. How can you go further? Not just in solving issues in Rwanda, but extending this service and expertise across Africa. Oh, we've made all the progress. We don't want to make more progress. That's a problem. And so despite all the progress that have been made in the Rwandan Forensic Laboratory, there's always one layer again to go. And that's the kind of engagement we're going to be having with authorities. How can you go further? Not just in solving issues in Rwanda, but extending this service and expertise across Africa.
In the same conference, local officials will be discussing how to establish forensic laboratories in several countries and train foreigners. Among the effort expected, to extend services to communities across the continent. According to the Rwanda Forensic Laboratory, several people who seek forensic lab service come from West and Southern African countries, and the conference will be the right time to discuss possible ways to extend services to them. Jessica Agasaro, RTV News.
On Monday, 6th March 2023, the delegation led by the Commissioner General of Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service and his Deputy Commissioner General applauded the progress made by their Rwandan counterparts and determined to learn from each other. It is a week-long visit where they are ready to learn from Rwandan Correctional Services. Betty Mutoni with the details.
The delegates from Zimbabwe is led by the Commissioner General of Zimbabwe Prison and Correction Service and his deputy. It is expected that during his visit, there will be cooperation between the two institutions to learn from Rwanda on the use of technology known as integrated electronic case management and use of biogas, which is environmental friendly. The Commissioner General of Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service confirms that Rwanda system has improved significantly since 2010, and this visit is useful because they are going to learn a lot.
Remember that when you are running a prison or correctional institution, you need to know what other people are doing so that we improve. The partnership has got a lot of things which we have considered. We can start from the rehabilitation activities themselves, and also we are looking at sports as the two institutions. Then also one other important partnership is on production, especially on agriculture. We have a lot to learn from each other on production. We do crop production, livestock. I've seen they've got very good livestock, seeing from the pictures which I've seen. It's something which we have on the Memorandum of Understanding.
The spokesperson of Rwanda Correctional Service, SSP Peruwera Gakwaya, noted that this visit will benefit both sides. It was signed before, but there were some amendments so that some of the things that were not put to be added. First one, there was the exchange of trainees in terms of increasing the productivity. Then later, it was renewed so that they could share the knowledge, so that there could be sharing of the knowledge of using biogas. Then again, the use of technology in registration of integrated electronic case management, because they found it was so important. In a bid to strengthen the partnership, on 19th March 2021 in Harare, the government of Rwanda, the government of Zimbabwe signed a memorandum of understanding and cooperation in the field of prison and correctional service, which included different things, as it is explained by the Commissioner General of Rwanda Correctional Officer, CGP Juvenal Mariza Munda.
Among the areas of cooperation stipulated in this MOU are the technical cooperation on information management, strengthening capacities of the parties through human resource development, exchange of information on issues relating to prisons and correctional services, exchange visits on sports and cultural activities, joint project to realize common objectives and improved correctional practices, including research and study projects, rehabilitation of offenders, and another form of cooperation mutually agreed upon by the parties. Your presence today is a testimony of the importance you attach to the cooperation between Rwanda Correctional Service and the Zimbabwe Prison and Correction Service. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate the existing cordial relations between Rwanda and Zimbabwe.
The visit of this delegation from Zimbabwe will last for a week, where they will visit different prisoners and rehabilitations all over the country in order to see how they work.
On behalf of the entire news production as well as the technical team, thank you for being with us on this edition of Rwanda Television News. And up until next time, stay safe and have a great week ahead. Goodbye.